Morning and welcome back to my workshop for a look at terminating some MI. I've had to try and set this up so I can get you guys around here and not try and work over the top of it. So if I happen to kick the tripod as we go through, I apologise. We're going to have a couple of terminations. We're going to do a MICC shrink-on, which is a little heat shrink termination to make off the opposite end of the cable to allow me to test it, and then we're going to do standard tail pot and seal if it all goes to plan. Anyway, how much to make off? This end is going to be the shrink on, so I'm not too bothered. You would normally want to make off enough that you can terminate it in the whatever appliance you're making off. Come on, fingernails giving up the ghost. Joy strippers can be a little bit picky about the straightness of cables. Don't forget your little black pot of Vaseline. This is about the amount that they used to give you in the kits once. Not anymore. Little smear of that, and then hopefully, if the joy stripper's set up right, which it does seem to be, these are marked around the edge of the barrel for the different sizes of cable. It's got a new blade in it, slots in there, should be good to go. However, they can be fickle, so we will see. I see people squashing the ends, hacksawing the ends off. Never done it, never seen it. I don't think you should need to grip the cable with a pair of pliers, as you see people doing. Obviously, this is a smaller diameter cable. But yeah, no, I don't think so. Maybe when you get to bigger ones, you might need to. However, when you think you've got far enough, you might need to hold it gently at the end, just to allow the joy stripper to ring off. Simple as that. This has got a bit damp at the end. Now, in theory, 4 knuckles, 2 inches and a bit, should be enough to take any dampness away. Most bits of kit that you're going to be doing are going to be further than that, but I haven't taken that back very far. So let's have a wiggle and a waggle and see whether I can get this set up in here. So hopefully that hasn't shorted it out. Now personally, I think that is shit, and if that's made off and not shorted, I shall be truly amazed. Now you shouldn't mega out these cables. Well, knock my tea over. So that's just done a heat shrink plug on the end of that. How good that is, we'll find out at some point. Make sure you're still in shot. Couple of bits of sleeve in. And then that would, I hope, give us a good termination. Who knows? So having done that end, let's have a look at the proper end. Now that is all the cable I've got, so you'll have to bear with me. Guys that are doing it in colleges and they've got like 2 foot, I kind of share your pain. There's not a lot to be working with. Now I need to make sure, stick that back in there, just to kind of hold it in place. Obviously if you're working on site, these could be partly clipped along a wall. They could be short bits that you've got between link boxes. Excuse me. Bug full of that. Anyway, I've seen loads of people do this different ways. These, you'd think they were gold dust. 21 days on eBay. Serves me right, some would say. All this threading it on backwards malarkey. I don't know why you can't just cut the end off and stick it on. You still in shot? Yeah, you are. So anyway, how much cable do you want? Well, you want 2 knuckles to get rid of the damp. You may want something like that to go into your appliance. So we'll get rid of that. And I know some of you guys aren't allowed to use Stanley knives on your sites anymore. I must admit I've cut myself a few times with these buggers, but they just do the job. I like this Stanley fish knife with a fixed blade. I do hate with an adversity the collapsible ones. I have had them collapse on me so many times. So I'll get rid of the knackered end. You will notice I'm not going to use a hacksaw on this. I'm not going to use a pair of pliers. Those go on first, please. We don't really want to be putting them on afterwards. Now, when we're stripping this off, we've got to allow for the fact that we want to crimp onto here. So, got to allow ourselves the length of cable you want in the termination, the crimp for the pot, and then the space for the gland. Obviously, I'm not terribly bothered because I am not going to terminate this. I am just going to get to the end and I am going to mega it through, make sure it's good. Come on, you, get in there. Powder in this magnesium oxide. See again, there's your damp bit on the end of the cable. Shouldn't be hanging on there. A nice cut bit of cable So then that makes me slightly worried about what the finished resistance is going to be like. But there you go, we can only see. So I don't go for all this gripping of cable sheaths with pliers. You do have the problem that you start scoring this. It's kind of the same with the ringing tools, which you'll notice I'm not using. That if you ring and then you use a stripper up to it, if you're twisting the cable too much, it's just going to split straight through the sheath and ruin your day. Right, pots. So we are going to be using a character like this, tailed pot. If it's easier to see, there's its big brother. Twin start thread, soldered earth tail, and this is the compound reservoir in here. They do get very fine whiskers of brass trapped in the pot, so something we have to be careful of. And I've given this earth wire a little bit of a kink to push it into wherever the cap's going to go. So let's just make sure that you stay in focus. So we thread him on there. Now some people have said to me, you're not a proper electrician if you use a pot wrench and a joy stripper. I think I'll say bollocks to that. You use what you need to use to do the job. To be fair, when I started out, there were no earth tails on the pots either, so that grips on there. A little bit of a nip up just to hold the pot in the gland straight, and with any luck, trying not to get in your way too much, and trying not to spiral the cores round the earth wire. Torch. I think I want a little bit more. Is that enough? Right, so really difficult for you to see, and I don't know whether I can get it there. No, it's very difficult for you to get a view inside there, but my copper jacket has pointer has just come through to the edge of this pot. Edge or a little bit proud. Don't really want to be back in there, and you don't want to be backing it off once you've got that far. If you loosen the pot back up, then you stand a good chance of ruining part of the earth continuity. Now, as I said earlier, you can get some nasty little whiskers grow on these, so I want to straighten them out. Now again, I don't know whether I can get this a bit nearer to you, but we make a triangle out of the three cores. Obviously the more cores you get, the harder it is, but I'm also going to have a little inspecting there in a minute and make sure that I've got no whiskers trapped. I could give that another little twist on, actually. I will do. He's not quite in there quite enough for my liking. that's the pleasure of old age and partial blindness. You can't see properly. However, I am going to have to hold that in a pair of pliers now. Just to stop that from spinning. I try not to use that part, obviously, because it's more serrated. But hey ho, there we go. So hopefully that hasn't misaligned my cables too much, and I can still get them apart. I can't see any brass whiskers in there. Make sure the cores are nice and straight. Have to bring him across there a bit. Right, pot caps. So this is a standard flame-proof pot cap. Where are you? On the table somewhere. So this is, albeit a lot larger, probably a 6mm. This is an EX pot cap. The idea of the EX pot cap is you can't pull these cables off these the sleeving off the end of the pot cap, whereas these ones, as you're terminating stuff, it can just pop off the end and leave you with an exposed bit of conductor in there, which then could lead to your ATEX protection not being as good as it should be, and lead to an explosion, a bang, or something else. Right, so next bit, we've checked for bits of swarf. We need to guide these on, and obviously if you're doing a big multi-core 19 or a 12 core cable, you can imagine how much fun that is. Right, so cap on, pot on, compound, non-setting compound. Used to have this all over the place. Get it in your trousers, get it everywhere. Try not to get any contaminants in it. Obviously, second you drop this on the floor, you drop it in your box, all you end up with is a load of swarf in your compound. So this, I'm going to work through these two cores from one side of the pot. So something like a bit at a time. Being careful not to push the pots. You certainly don't want to push the pots together, the cores together. You don't have to worry about putting too much in. So that looks as though that has filled up the pot. You can see it. Bring it a bit closer to you. Hang on, I'm going to risk my tea again. So there we are. Oh, come on, you. Although I've trapped it in the vise to keep it a bit more controllable, it does mean I keep on catching it. So there you go. I filled up from one side of the pot right across from this side through the two cores and out towards the earth wire. So now we want to, without changing the orientation of those conductors, we want to introduce that into there. Pot clamp, pot compressor, crimper, that's the word I was looking for. So this has spikes on the cap that then would go in and engage on the plastic cap, and those physically crimp the brass bucket over. So go into there, gently ease them into there, look for the indents around the side, and then with any luck we should be able to go. Into there. Now these have got depth stop on them, I believe, so they will only go so far. To be fair, if you're strong enough that you can crush the size of the side of the pot. Hopefully we've got a bit of compound up each leg of the cap. The pot is crimped on. Something like that. So now, depending on how far you've stripped back, some guys would say they've done them 1.5 metre into heater boxes. Some people would say that they've only done it a short distance into terminations, into fuse boards. Totally depends on your application. So there's the tails. There's the CPC. Don't suppose we're allowed to call it an earth anymore. So there you go. In theory, that's a finished job. However, we don't know which caused which, and we don't know whether it's a good termination. So first off, let us check. Set those out of the way if I can. We get that to stay out of the way for you. Are you in shot? Are you in focus? Somewhere there. So let's see just whether I've shorted it out and how damp it is. Let's go on there. So we're on 500 volts currently. So that's short. That's clear. 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 Dead short. So earth's dead short. We could go down onto that, and we're looking at about, what's that? 0.35 ohms resistance in there. I don't know how accurate that is. You'd want to do that with a digital meter if you actually wanted to know how good that is. So now we have got a clear looper cable. We've put 500 volts up each conductor down to earth. Now if this was a decent length of cable, you'd now have a live cable. If when you release the button, hang on, didn't do face to face, did I? Hang on, core to core. Missed one. Core to core's shorted out somewhere. That's bad news. No, it isn't. Talking shit. Sorry guys. Got my analogue round the wrong way. So yeah. So we know insulation resistance is good between the earth and either core and across the cores, but we don't know which core's which. Again, if this was a long cable, it works as a capacitor and you charge it up when you put 500 volts in it, and you need to discharge that before you get your fingers attached to it. So what I could do with is one on there, one on there. We actually want to know which core is which. So if I nip across here, get some of my Festus tape out. I hope you can still see this. Let's move this across. So we have, again, if you were much further away, this would be a bit of a ball ache. It could be the other side of a mill, could be the other side of a library or a stately home. I might use heat shrink on this. In fact, I probably would if I could. I do prefer heat shrink to tape wherever possible. Not always possible, but for speed and what I happen to have to hand, I will just tag those like that for a minute. You might want to over sleeve these all the way with proper sleeving or heat shrink it. Doesn't matter which one of these you pick, you're going to determine it by what you find at the other end. So if I go between earth and the line conductor, and let's do that. So at the moment that's open circuit, that's closed circuit. So if I do with that one, open circuit, nothing. So that has to be our live conductor. This is all part, I suppose, of your identification of cables and your polarity when you're doing your test and inspection. Has it been polaritied out right? You kind of do it yourself when you're doing this. So just to prove that, if I go between that core and that core, give it 500 volts up the trouser leg, there you go. Spot on. IR's good between the legs and the earth and the pot. and continuity is good between the ends of the cables. I don't know an awful lot more that I can tell you about that, guys. Thank you very much for watching. If you like it, subscribe and share. If you don't, tell me about it and we'll do something a little bit different for you. Thank you very much, and have a good weekend.